Hello everyone. In this tutorial, we will see how to handle a DOM and a window events with a React. Introduction. In a web development, events representations that happens in the web browser by responding to events with the events handlers. You can create a dynamic JavaScript applications that respond to any user actions, including clicking with the mouse, scrolling along a web page, touching a touch screens, and more. In React apps, you can use a handlers to update a state data, triggers group changes, or prevent a default browser's actions. To do this, React uses a synthetic event wrapper instead of the native event interfaces. Synthetic event closely emulates the standards browser events, but provides more consistent behavior for different web browsers. In this tutorial, you will learn how to handle a event in React. You will build several sample components that handles the user events, including a self-validating input component and an informative tooltip for the input form. Throughout the tutorial, you will learn how to add events handlers to a components, full information from the synthetic event, and add and remove window event listeners. By the end of this tutorial, you will be able to work with a variety of event handlers and apply the catalog of events supported by the Reacts. Prerequis- Prerequisites. We will need we will need to develop an environment running Node.js. This tutorial was tested on Node.js version uh, and npm version. To install this on macOS or Ubuntu, follow the steps in how to install Node.js and create a local development environment of macOS, or the installing using a PPA section of how to install Node.js on Ubuntu. Then create a step on creating an empty project of the how to manage a state on a React classes component tutorial. In step 1, extracting the event data with a synthetic event. In this step, we will create a validating component using an input HTML element and the onChange event handler. This component will accept an input and validate it or make sure that the content adheres to specific text pattern. You will see the synthetic event wrapper to pass event data into the callback function and update the component using the data from data from the input. We will also call the functions from the synthetic events such as prevent default to prevent a standard browser actions. In a React, you don't need to select the elements before adding listeners. Instead you add event handlers directly to your JSX using props. There are a large number of supported events in React, including common events such as on click or on change, and less comma less common events such as on wheel. Unlike native DOM on event handlers, React passes a special wrappers called synthetic event to the event handler rather than the native browser events. Uh, then the abstraction helps reduce cross browsers inconsistency and gives your components a standard interface for working with the events. Then first create the dictionary in VS Code. Select the go to VS Code. In VS Code, first go to select the terminal and take new terminal, paste it, copy this in the terminal command, and inside the file namer, create a file namer .js. Inside inside a file namer .js, create a wrapper div, then add another div, HTML div with a class name of preview. Add a form element inside the wrapper by writing the following lines of code. Copy this code and open the VS Code and paste in the file namer.js file. And then next add an input element for the name to display in the preview box and a save button. Add the following highlighted lines. Again copy this code and paste it in a VS Code and save this code and exit. In the preview, you added an H2 element with a text preview. This will be your preview box inside your form. You added an input surrounded by the label element with a name as its text. Then you added a button called save directly before the closing form tag. And then save and close the file. Then go to app, open the app.js, import a file name, import a file namer inside the app.js, then render inside the app function by adding the following highlighted lines. Copy this code and paste in app.js. Paste the code in app.js. Here is the code. Then start running the code. You will after Webpack is compiled successfully. Save and close the files. When you do the browser, will refresh and you will see your component. I refresh the Webpack is compiled successfully. The output is like this. Here is the output name. Then go to next. Next, add some light styling to help define the sections and to add some padding and margins to the elements. Open file.css in your text editor. Create a file namer.css inside the file namer folder. Give the preview classes a gray border and padding the given. Then given the wrapper, class a small amount of padding. Display the items in a column using flex and the flex direction and make all the text align left. Finally, remove the default button styles by removing the borders and adding a black borders. Copy this code inside the filer name.css. Paste it inside the filer name.css. then save. Then open the filer name.js. Import the styles to apply them to your components. Here is the code. Copy this code and paste it in, paste inside the former file namer.js and save. The webpack is compiled successfully. Save the file. When you do, the browser will refresh and you will find the component as the new styles. Again, we got this output in VS Code in terminal. The code is compiled successfully. Then click Ctrl C. Yes. We got the output. Then go to next. Now that you have a basic component, you can add a event handlers to the input element. But first, you will need a place to store the data in the input field. Add the use state hook to hold the input. Again, inside the file namer.js, copy this code and paste inside the file namer.js. Then save. In this code, you destructed the use state into a variable name to hold the input and a function called setName to update the data. Then you displayed the name in the previous section, followed by the JS extension, as if the user were naming a file. For this tutorial, use on change to capture the entire input value and not just the most recent key. This will save you the effort of storing and concatenating the value on every change. Creating a function that takes the event as an argument and pass it to the input element using the on change prop. Create a function that takes the event as an argument and pass it to the input element using the on change prop. We create this function, we add some tutorials inside this code. Let us run the code inside the file namer.js. Copy this code and paste inside the file namer.js. Save. As mentioned earlier, the event here, as mentioned earlier, the event here is not the native browser event. It is the synthetic event provided by the React, which is often treated the same. In the rare cases, you need the native event. You can use the native event attribute on the synthetic event. Now that you have the event, Pull out the current value from the target value from the target dot value property of the event. Uh, Pass the value to the set name to the update to update at the preview. Copy this code and go to VS Code, paste it here. Then save this code. The Webpack is compiled successfully. Then click Ctrl C. Type npm start. Type the file name, new file. Whatever we type. um, Type the new file. The name is printed here. This is the output of this code. Then go to next one. In addition, you set the attributes autocomplete to off to turn off web browser suggestion. Save this file. When you do the page will reload, and when you type in the input, you will see an update in the review. We already see the output in the React app. Then go to next. First create a hook that will generate an alert boolean and a set alert function. Then add a div to display a message if alert is true. We use mm, two alerts, one alert and set alert functions in this code. In this code, you use the uh, and operators to only show the new div or if div if alert is set equal to a true first. The message in the div will tell the user that the mm, forbidden character is not allowed in the input. Next, create a function called validate. Use the regular expression dot test method to find out if the string contains a forbidden character. If it does, you will prevent the form submission. We add the some functions inside this. We add some function inside this code. Validate. When the validate function is called and the test returns true, it will use a event prevent default, then call a set alert a true. Otherwise, it will call a set alert false. In the last part of the code, you added the event handler to the button event element with an on click. Save the file as before. You could have also need one mouse down, but on click is more common. and thus allow you to avoid any unexpected side effects. This form doesn't have any submit actions, but by preventing the default actions, you prevent the page from the reloading. After running the code, the output is like this. First, we run the code, copy this code, go to file namer.js, paste the code, and save. The webpack is compiled successfully. Then Control C, yes, npm start, type here new into file, then click on save. It shows the forbidden characters. Here is the output. Now you have a form that uses two handlers. One is on change and on click. You are using the event handlers to connect the user actions to the component and the applications. Make it interactive. In doing so, you learn to add events to DOM elements and how there are several events that fire on the same action, but that provide a different information in the synthetic event. You also learned how to react information from the synthetic event, update the component by saving that data to state, and halt and ending using a prevent default. In the next step, we will add a multiple events to a single DOM elements to handle a variety of user actions. Step 2. In step 2, we will see how to add a multiple event handlers to the same elements. There are situations when a single component will form a multiple events, and you will need to be able to connect to the different events on the single component. For example, in this step, you will use the on focus and on blur events handlers to give the user just in time information about the component. By the end of this step, we'll know more about the different supported events in the React and how to add them to your components. The validate function is helpful for preventing your form from submitting a bad data, but it is not very helpful for user experience. The user only receives the information about the valid about characters after they have filled out the entire form. If there were multiple fields, it wouldn't give the user any feedback until the last step. To make this component more user friendly, display the allowed and disallowed characters when the user enters the field by adding an on focus event handler. First, update the alert div to include the information about what characters are allowed. Uh, Tell the user alphanumeric characters are allowed and the uh, forbidden character is not allowed. Inside, we add the alert and alphanumeric characters, allowed and not allowed char- alphanumeric characters. Then copy this file, In this code, you use the Accessible Rich Internet Applications ARIA standards to make the component more accessible to screen readers. Next, add another event handler to the input element. We will allow the user to the allowed and disallowed character when they active the component by either clicking or tabbing into the input. Add in the following highlighted lines. Then we will see a set alert true, some other inputs inside this code. After that, copy this code, open the VS Code and paste inside the file namer .js. Save this code and open the terminal. We have two errors. Solve these errors, and after solving the errors, we got web compiled successfully. Then click on Ctrl C, then type npm start. Here is the output. It shows the alphanumeric character and forbidden characters. This is the alphanumeric character and this is a forbidden character. And next, the user information now appears when the field is focused, but now the data is present for the duration of the component. There is no way to make it go away. Fortunately, there is another event called onBlur that fires when the user leaves the use an input. Add the onBlur event handler with an anonymous function that will set the alert to false. Like onFocus, this will works both when a user clicks away or when a user taps away. Then come to then let's see a code. Save the file when do you the browser will refresh and the information will display when the user clicks on the element and disappear when the user clicks away. Here is the output. You can add so many events handlers as you need to an element. If you have an idea of an event you need but aren't sure of the name, scroll through the supported events and you may find what you need. In the next step, you will add a global event listener to the window object to capture events that occur outside the immediate component. In step 3, let us see how to adding a new Windows events. In this step 3, you will put the user information in a pop-up component that will activate when the user focuses on an input and will close when the user clicks anywhere else on the page. To achieve this effect, you will add a global event listener to the window object using the use effect hook. We will also remove the event listener when the component unmounts to prevent memory leaks when your app take up more memory than it needs to. By the end of this step, you will able to safety add and remove event listener to an individual component. You will also learn how to use effect hooks to perform action when a component mounts and unmounts. In most of cases, you will add event handlers directly to a DOM elements in your JSX. This keeps your code focused and prevent confusing situations where a component is controlled another component's behavior through the window object. But there are times in which you will need to add a global event listeners. For example, you may want a scroll listener to load a new content, or you may want to capture a click event outside of a component. In this tutorial, you only want to show the user the information about the input if they specifically ask for it. After you display the information, you will want to hide it whenever you use whenever the user clicks the page outside of the component. To start, move the alert display into the new div with an class name of information wrapper. Then add a new button with a class name of a information, and then click event that will call set alert true. Then go to our next coding part. We will add some inputs here. We will also remove the on focus and on blur handles from the input element to remove the behavior from the last step. Save and close the file, then open the filenamer.css. Add some styling to absolute position the pop-up information above the button. Then change the button with a class of information to be blur with a no border. Here is the code for filenamer.css. Copy this code and paste inside the filenamer.js in VS Code. And then save the code. The file when you do the browser will reload, and when you click on more information, the information about the component will appear. When we click on the information more information button, it shows alphanumeric character and forbidden characters. Now you can trigger the pop-up, but there is no way to clear it. To fix that problem, add a global event listener that calls set alert false on any click outside of the pop-up. The event listener would look something like this. The event listener is like this. However, you have to be mindful about when you set the event listener in your code. You can't for example add an event listener at the pop-up of the component code, because then every time something changed, the component would re-render and add a new event listener. Since your component will likely re-render many times, that would create a lot of unused event listener that take up memory. To solve this, React has a special hook called useEffect that will run only when a specific properties change. The basic structure is this. Here is the basic structure. In the simplified example, React will run the code in the anonymous function whenever some prop or some other prop changes. The items in the array are called dependencies. These hooks listen for changes to the dependency and then runs the function after the change. Now we have the tools to add or remove global event listener safely by the use effect to add the event listener whenever alert is true and remove it whenever alert is false. There is one more step when the component unmounts it, it will run any function that you return from inside of your use effect hook. Because of this, you will also need to return a function that removes the event listener when the component unmounts. The basic structure would be like this: use effect, run code when anything in the array change, return. Now the shape of your use effect hook, use it in your application. Open up filenamer.js. Open the file name.js. Inside, import a use effect, then add an empty anonymous function with a dependency of alert and a set alert in the array after the function. In filenamer.js, we copy this code. We use a set alert and a alert. In this code, you added both the alert and set alert to be complete. To React recommends, you add all the external dependencies to the use effect function. Since you will be calling the set alert function, it can be considered as a dependency. Set alerts will not change after the first render, but it's good practice to include anything that could be considered a dependency. Next, inside the anonymous function, create a new function called handle window click that calls set alert false. Then add a conditional that will call a window, add a event listener, click handle window click when alert is true, and will call a window removal event listener, click handle window click when alert is false. This will add the event listener every time you trigger the pop-up and remove it every time the pop-up is closed. Here is the code. We use add event listener and remove event listener inside this code. Finally, return function that will remove the event listener once again. This will run when the component unmounts. There may not be a live events. We add an extra line in this code. Save the file. When you do, the browser will refresh. If you click on the more information button, the message will appear. If you look at the global event listeners in the developer tools, you will see there is a click listeners. Here we see the output. Your use effect hooks successfully added and removed a global event listener based on a user interaction. It wasn't tied to a specific DOM element, but was instead triggered by a change in the component state. Conclusion: event handlers give you the opportunity to align your components with the user action. This will give your application a rich experience and will increase the interactive possibilities of your app. They will also give you the ability to capture and respond to your user action. React Events Handler let you keep your events callback integrated with the HTML so that you can share functionality and design across an application. In most of the cases, you should focus on adding event handlers directly to our DOM elements, but in a situation where you need to capture events outside of the component, you can add event listener, add a cleanup them when they are no longer in use to prevent memory leaks and create formative applications.